What's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Holly and this is my booktube channel. I talk about reading and books, and I'm usually drinking coffee of some kind. Today I'm actually drinking the 5 Alarm blend. I've got it here with me. This is the Black Rifle Coffee Company, their 5 Alarm blend. It is kind of their ode to firefighters and first responders. And I believe a lot of the proceeds go towards supporting firefighters and first responders. And if you're new here, my husband is a firefighter paramedic, so we are all about that. Any way we can support our first responders is good for me. So this is actually a really good coffee, and I don't think it has any specific flavor. I think it's just kind of a medium roast coffee, and it has a cool firefighter design there. And then on the back, I think it even has a wildland firefighter, which those guys are a special breed. So yeah, today actually, my husband is coming home. He has been gone for about 2 weeks on a fire deployment, which is where they take firefighters from different areas and deploy them to different areas around the state or the country to help other firefighter teams or different areas. And he's been down in South Texas for a while, working down there, and I'm excited because he is coming home today. And along that same vein, when this video comes out, it will be March 27th, which is my husband's birthday. So that leads me into what we're going to talk about today, which is my husband's favorite books. So since it's his birthday, I thought it would be a really good idea to discuss some of the books that he loves, because y'all hear a lot from me, but maybe you'd like to hear a different opinion and a different style of books. So with that, let's jump into it. The first book that my husband said he really enjoyed is called Eye of the Storm by Jack Higgins. We recently went to our library. They do a periodic book sale where they're trying to clear out some of their inventory, and he stumbled upon a ton of Jack Higgins books and scooped them up, and this is book 1 in the series, so he said that it's really good. The back of the book says, Sean Dillon is a hired killer. The IRA, the PLO, ETA, he's worked for them all. Now, with the Gulf War raging, the Iraqis need his services for an apocalyptic strike at the heart of the West. If it succeeds, it will shake the world to its foundations. Leaders will be wiped out, terror will spread, a devastating blow against democracy. Dillon has 10 Downing Street in his sights, but British intelligence are on his trail. They have hired a killer to stalk a killer, a mortal enemy who is hell-bent on revenge. As the lightning strikes and the bullets fly, Sean Dillon will discover how it feels to be at the eye of the storm. So that sounds really interesting. Kind of a, I don't know, it sounds like he's kind of a covert operative type of guy, and there's these maybe terroristic plots going on. So if you're into kind of military action, that type of books, it sounds like this one would be really good. I haven't read it, but I'm kind of intrigued. Maybe I will. And I should also mention that my husband has never been a massive reader, but he's recently gotten back into it and really enjoyed some of these books. And since he's not someone that reads a ton, the fact that he likes these says a lot about him. And the second book that he recommended is called American Sniper by Chris Kyle. This one I think was pretty famous just because of who Chris Kyle is, so you may have already heard of this one. So one thing to know about Chris Kyle is that he is a U.S. Navy SEAL. And from about 1999 to 2009, so a 10-year span, he recorded the most sniper kills in U.S. American history. I believe the Pentagon has officially confirmed like 150 of his kills, and those are just the ones that are officially confirmed. And I believe this book was saying something about the Pentagon declined to confirm the actual number of kills because they say that it is quite astonishing. So as you can imagine, this man is feared by the Iraqis that they were going up against, we were going up against here in America, and they actually put a bounty out on his head because he was that dangerous to them. So essentially, this book follows Chris Kyle, and he writes about all of his battle experiences and war experiences and all his time as a sniper and as a Navy SEAL, and apparently it is one of my husband's absolute favorite books of all time. And I have not read it yet, but I've read similar Navy SEAL type of books, so I think I'd probably really like this one. It's one that I probably need to get to. The other books that my husband recommended are ones that I don't have here with me because he took them with him on his fire deployment, or we just can't seem to find them in the house. But the next one, the third book, is called Marine Sniper. So kind of a similar type of vibe. Goodreads describes it as telling the true story of Sergeant Carlos Hathcock. He was a legendary Marine sniper in the Vietnam War. He would lie in like one position for days, barely twitching a muscle, trying to control his heart rate and his breathing. If you've ever looked into what snipers have to do, it's incredible. I don't think I could do it. So he actually had 93 confirmed kills, and basically this book is his story and all about him. So you can see my husband kind of likes real life military stories, hero stories. I mean, look what he does for a living. Are we surprised? Not really. And the next book, or books technically, that my husband wanted me to mention are the Hunger Games trilogy. He actually wanted me to mention this because he said that it was one of the first books and trilogies in general that he ever really got into or finished even, because like I said, he wasn't a big reader growing up. So he said the fact that he read these and loved them and enjoyed them was really kind of eventful for him, and it sort of sparked his enjoyment of reading. We all have that one book that we can remember that just, you know, launched our love of reading and our love of books, and for him it was actually the Hunger Games. I forget how old he was. He was probably in middle school or high school or something when he read it, but he did say it was absolutely worth mentioning. And you've probably heard of the Hunger Games. They've been out for many years, but if you have not, it is essentially a dystopian type of novel from what I understand. I actually haven't read them. Don't come for me, but yeah. So essentially it says that North America is in ruins. Like I said, it's a dystopian, kind of almost post-apocalyptic sort of novel. There's a capital that is surrounded by 12 outlying districts. So the capital, which rules all these districts, is harsh and cruel and keeps the districts in line by forcing them to send one boy and one girl to participate in the annual Hunger Games. And they're usually between the ages of 12 and 18. So these are children. The book really centers around Katniss Everdeen. She is 16 when the book starts out. She lives alone with her mother and her younger sister. And when she steps forward to take her sister's place in the Hunger Games, that's when it all begins, because I believe her sister was the one that actually got picked, but big sister Katniss said, absolutely not, and stepped in to take her sister's place, which I'm the eldest of my siblings, 100% I would have done the same thing. So essentially it's all about her entering the Hunger Games and her, you know, battle with that and having to go through all of that, and it turns out she's actually really freaking good at it, so there's that aspect too. So if you haven't already read the books or seen the movies, you might really enjoy those. The next book that my husband recommended is called A Book of Five Rings, and I'm gonna butcher this name, but it is by Miyamoto Musashi. Actually, that wasn't too bad. I think I did okay. Essentially, I think this is like a military strategy book, so I think it's non-fiction. Essentially, he wrote this before his death in 1645, so this is a really old book. Musashi was an undefeated swordsman, and he went to this cave to live as a hermit, and he wrote 5 scrolls describing the true principles required for victory in martial arts and on the battlefield. So instead of relying on religion or theory like you might expect, he based his writings all on his own experience, his own observations, and his own reasoning, hence this book. So it's a really ancient military strategy book. I have not read it, but my husband absolutely loves it. So if you're into that sort of thing, maybe you would too. And the last book that my husband recommended is one of his favorites. It is called Empire of the Summer Moon. So this is the story of Quanah Parker, the rise and fall of the Comanches, and one of the most powerful Indian tribes in American history. So apparently this is like the historical account of a 40-year battle between the Comanche Indians and white settlers for control of the American West, and it centers on Quanah Parker. He was a Comanche chief, and Comanches in general kind of had this legendary fighting ability. They would start training their young boys really little. Like, they would be really skilled horsemen by the time that they were 6, riding bareback, which is really stinking difficult. And this book is just all about that 40-year conflict and war and battle between Comanches and white settlers. What my husband really liked about this was the part of the book where they get to Texas. So the white settlers have come to Texas, and the fight with the Comanche Indians is still occurring even in Texas. It says that apparently the Comanche Indians were so effective at what they did that it forced the creation of the Texas Rangers, and accounts for the new weapon specifically designed to fight them, the 6-gun. So that's insane to think about, that the reason we have Texas Rangers, which, if you're not familiar with Texas Rangers, they're kind of an elite law enforcement group. I mean, getting into the Texas Rangers and becoming one is excruciatingly difficult. So the fact that we needed this, incredible force of fighters shows you just how amazing and powerful the Comanche tribes were. And the fact that the 6-gun was created specifically to fight them means that they were coming at us full force. I mean, that is just amazing to think about. So this whole book gets into, everything from Spanish colonialism, the Civil War, the destruction of the buffalo herds, and the arrival of railroads. I mean, it spans 40 years of all these really iconic, eventful things happening, and the Comanches battle with all the white settlers and all the horrible things that the white settlers were doing at the time. And it says, along with all of that, there is the story of Cynthia Ann Parker. She was a 9-year-old girl who was kidnapped by Comanches from the Texas frontier in 1836. However, she grew to love her captors, and she became infamous and was called the White Squaw. She refused to return to her white family until the Texas Rangers captured her in 1860. So she is famous because her son is Quanah Parker, the one this book is entirely about, the famous Comanche chief. He was a warrior who was never defeated. He had guerrilla warfare up in the Texas Panhandle, and he is absolutely a legend. And he actually was in the area of Texas where my husband and I live now. So having something relevant to the town where we live and this incredible historical figure is just so cool. My husband is a huge history buff, just like I am. We go to museums and historical sites all the time, so I can absolutely see how this book was right up his alley, and it sounds fascinating. And it's interesting that Quanah Parker's mother was kidnapped by Comanches because my husband hit up in his family tree, one of his ancestors, I forget her name. It's actually, we have it framed on our wall, the newspaper article about it, but she was actually captured by Native Americans way back in the day, and we have the news article about it. And so, my husband's family history goes back a long way, and that's just one side of his family. The other side of his family was actually the opposite. They were Native American. I think I don't know how many greats, maybe 3 or 4 greats grandmother, I think was full Native American. She had his grandfather used to tell us she had this long, straight black hair that was just gorgeous, and she would have to brush it. And my husband has the same straight black hair, and no matter how he tries, it sticks up real straight, and it's just hell for barbers. But, I've gone on a tangent. I don't even know where I'm going with that. I get really excited about history, and Native American culture is just beautiful and fascinating. And yeah, I can see why he loves that book. That about wraps it up for the books that my husband wanted to recommend to you all. So I hope you found something interesting and something a little different than what I would normally recommend. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye y'all.